So you mentioned LinkedIn. How should people use online social networks as they're going through trying to find an employer?
Well, let's define online social networks. Online social networks are places where you make acquaintances, you make friends, or you list friends you already have. So you create bonds with people. I remember in the old days before the internet, I had a lot of friends, many friends, that maybe I contacted every 2 or 3 or 4 years. What's nice about the social networks, is particularly Facebook, if you're on Facebook, is that you stay in touch with those people. They get reminded of your birthday, you get reminded of them, their birthday, and so on. So you have a more active relationship with them. Thus, when you approach that person, it's not somebody that, hey, do you remember I went to high school with you? It's, do you remember I posted on your wall 3 months ago? So the first virtue of social media in this internet age is that you are having a lot more active relationships. It used to be pretty crummy when you would approach somebody you hadn't seen for years and say, oh, by the way, would you help me find a job? I mean, at least you could say, hello, how are you, before you go to that stage. But that was the way it was working. You were asking something to them, and you hadn't touched their lives for years. The social media has changed everything. It's changed it so that you have a very different relationship with the people you're going to ask to help you. Now, on LinkedIn, you can approach, you're looking up a company, and you're trying to find out who knows you and knows them. Now, some people will tell you LinkedIn is a very broad network. You can use the network. That is to say, I get requests all the time, myself, and I'm sure everybody else does too. Would you link to this person? And it turns out that I have 3 links already, but those 3 links know somebody who's a friend of that person. So I'm going to 2 or 3 points before I get to that person. I don't think that's terribly useful if what you're looking for is a bridge person. Now, if you want information about the company or something like that, that's useful. It doesn't matter if you don't know them directly. You know them through your friends or their friends and so on. But when you talk about bridge people, you want it to be somebody you know who knows you directly, because the one thing they've got to offer to the employer that you are interested in is they've got to assure them, yes, I know this person, I've seen this person in action. I remember I get letters occasionally from people that I saw working maybe 8 years ago. All I ever did is I encountered them in the office. I went to the office to see somebody else. I see them working there at their desk. Then they write me 8 years later and they say, would you recommend me? You've seen my work. No, I haven't. I don't know what they're goofing off half the day or so on. So I always write back and say, I don't know the person well enough to be able to say this recommendation you're asking me for. But with LinkedIn, if you look for somebody that knows you, it's got to be somebody that has actually seen you in operation and knows or knows you so well. They know your character, they know your work ethic, they know you're the type of person that comes in early, stays late, is totally dependable. All the things that if the person does not have them, an employer feels very, very uncertain whether they ought to hire that person. So social media makes for closer relationships, sustained relationships, and you want to find, particularly when you get to bridge people with LinkedIn, you want to find people who have actually seen you at work and can with confidence recommend you to the employer that is of interest to you.
That's great.